What drives a regime to push science beyond morality? During World War II, Nazi Germany created some of the strangest, most dangerous weapons ever imagined. From giant tanks and stealth aircraft to rockets that touch space and chemical agents that killed with a drop, these inventions blurred the line between science and madness. Some changed the future. Others nearly destroyed it. Join us as we uncover the most insane Nazi superweapons ever built. Panzer VIII. Imagine a tank so massive that bridges could not hold its weight, and so heavy it needed 2 engines just to crawl forward. This was the Panzer VIII, Hitler's dream of building the ultimate battlefield monster. Weighing an unbelievable 188 tons, the Maus remains the heaviest fully enclosed tank ever built in history. It stood 12 feet tall, stretched 33 feet long, and carried a 128mm main gun powerful enough to destroy any Allied tank from more than 2 miles away. In theory, it could level entire buildings with a single shot. But while the Maus looked unstoppable on paper, in reality, it was too big for its own good. It could only travel at 8 miles per hour, slower than a running soldier. Its massive fuel consumption meant it constantly needed refueling, a nearly impossible task during the war. Even river crossings required 2 Maus tanks working together, one powering the other with a long underwater cable. Only 2 prototypes were ever built before the Soviets overran the testing grounds in 1945. German forces destroyed them to prevent capture, but Soviet engineers later pieced together one surviving hybrid, which still sits in a Russian museum today. The Maus remains a symbol of Nazi Germany's obsession with bigger, deadlier weapons. A machine that pushed engineering limits, but collapsed under its own weight. It was not just a tank, it was a rolling fortress, proof of ambition gone mad. V-2 rocket. The V-2 rocket was not just another weapon, it was a terrifying leap into the future of warfare. Standing 46 feet tall and weighing nearly 29,000 pounds, it was the world's first long-range ballistic missile. Created by Wernher von Braun and his team at Peenemünde, the V-2 could reach speeds of 500 miles per hour and strike targets more than 200 miles away. Unlike conventional bombs, there was no warning. No engine roar, no sirens, just sudden destruction as the rocket fell from the sky at supersonic speed. Between September 1944 and March 1945, over 3,000 V-2 rockets were launched, mainly at London and Antwerp, killing thousands of civilians. But the true horror lay in how they were built. Instead of advanced factories, production was carried out in underground tunnels by slave laborers. More than 10,000 prisoners died making these rockets, more than the number who died from the attacks themselves. After the war, the V-2 became a prize in the race between the United States and the Soviet Union. Through Operation Paperclip, America captured von Braun and many of his engineers. The same man who built weapons to terrorize London would later design the Saturn V rocket that took astronauts to the moon. The V-2 was both a nightmare and a beginning, an invention born in war that opened the door to the space age. Colibri Pistol. In a war defined by giant tanks and devastating rockets, the Nazis also carried something that looked almost like a toy. The Colibri Pistol. Its name means hummingbird in German, and it was exactly that: tiny, light, and unusual. Measuring just 2.7 inches long, it was the smallest production pistol ever made, firing the smallest centerfire cartridge in history. Created in 1914 by Austrian watchmaker Franz Fanl, this weapon was so small it could fit in the palm of your hand or be hidden inside a cigarette pack. By World War II, Nazi officers and spies were still carrying these miniature firearms. The pistol fired a 2.7mm bullet that traveled at 650 feet per second. On its own, the round carried so little energy that it could barely pierce a heavy coat. But its real danger wasn't its power. It was its concealment. No one expected a deadly weapon to be hidden in something so small. Allied soldiers often mistook them for cigarette lighters or toys during raids on Nazi facilities. Fewer than 1,000 Colibri pistols were ever made, and their use was limited to espionage, close-range assassination, or as a hidden last resort. Today, the surviving examples are prized by collectors not for their combat effectiveness, but for their sheer strangeness. The Colibri remains a symbol of how Nazi technology stretched in every direction, sometimes toward overwhelming power, and other times toward clever secrecy. A weapon so small, it was almost invisible. Focke-Achgelis Fa 2-23, while the Allies were still experimenting with crude prototypes, Nazi Germany was already flying a fully operational helicopter capable of real missions. The Focke-Achgelis Fa 2-23, Drache. This machine marked history as the world's first production helicopter, and it was far ahead of its time. With a twin-rotor design that eliminated the need for a tail rotor, the Fa 2-23 could carry over 500 pounds of cargo, climb to 23,000 feet, and reach speeds of 1 or 13 miles per hour. For the 1940s, these numbers were extraordinary. The Fa 2-23 wasn't just an experimental craft, it was put to use. German pilots used it to rescue downed airmen from mountains, recover crashed aircraft, and transport supplies across terrain where planes couldn't land. One pilot, Hans Helmut Gerstenhauer, became famous for flying daring missions even into Soviet-controlled areas right up until Germany's surrender. In September 1945, he piloted a captured Fa 223 across the English Channel, becoming the first person in history to cross it by helicopter. Only 20 Fa 223s were completed due to Allied bombings that constantly disrupted production. Still, its influence lived on. Every modern helicopter carries DNA from this Nazi design. The Fa 223 proved that vertical flight could be more than a dream. It could change the battlefield. While it never existed in large numbers, it stands as one of the strangest and most advanced weapons Nazi Germany ever built, a true glimpse into the future of aviation. Type XXI U-Boat, the oceans of World War II became a battlefield of shadows, and nothing struck fear into Allied navies more than the Type XXI U-Boat, known as the Electroboot. It was the most advanced submarine of its time and the design that redefined underwater warfare for decades. Unlike earlier U-boats that were essentially surface ships that could submerge for short periods, the Type XXI was built to live underwater. Its streamlined hull and powerful batteries allowed it to stay submerged for days, run silently on electric motors, and cruise at speeds that left Allied destroyers helpless. This submarine could dive deeper than most weapons could reach, fire torpedoes without surfacing, and even recharge its batteries while nearly invisible beneath the waves using a snorkel system. Allied sonar operators called them ghost boats because they seemed to appear and vanish without warning. The Type XXI could travel at 17 knots underwater, faster than many surface ships. A shocking capability at the time. Armed with 23 torpedoes and equipped with advanced fire control systems, these subs were floating fortresses designed to wipe out entire convoys. Hitler ordered 600 of these revolutionary submarines, but the war ended before production could reach full scale. Only 118 were completed, and just a handful saw limited combat. Yet, after the war, both the United States and the Soviet Union studied captured Type XXI boats in detail. Every modern submarine, from Cold War nuclear hunters to today's stealthy subs, owes its existence to this Nazi design. The Type XXI wasn't just a weapon. It was the future, born too late. Messerschmitt Me 262, the roar of a jet engine over Europe in 1944, signaled a terrifying change in warfare. The Messerschmitt Me 262 was the world's first operational jet fighter, and it was unlike anything the Allies had ever faced. With a top speed of 540 miles per hour, it could outrun every propeller-driven aircraft in the skies. Pilots in Spitfires and Mustangs described these encounters as fighting phantoms. The Me 262 would appear, unleash a deadly burst, and vanish before they could react. Armed with 430mm cannons, the Me 262 could shred Allied bombers in seconds. A single pass was often enough to destroy a B-17 Flying Fortress or Lancaster. Its speed and firepower made it the most dangerous fighter of the war. But it wasn't only about combat. It was about psychology. Allied aircrews were shocked and terrified, knowing they were facing the future of aviation years before it should have existed. Schwerer Gustav Gun, bigger despite its scale, the gun could land shells with remarkable accuracy at distances up to 29 miles. Arado Ar 234, before the age of strategic bombers and stealth jets, Nazi Germany unveiled the Arado Ar 234 Blitz, the world's first operational jet-powered bomber. Sleek and fast, this aircraft could fly at 460 miles per hour and reach altitudes of 32,000 feet, well beyond the reach of Allied fighters at the time. In August 1944, the Ar 234 performed a mission that stunned the Allies. It flew over the Normandy invasion beaches, photographed the entire battlefield, and returned safely without a single plane being able to touch it. The Ar 234 could carry 300 pounds of bombs while flying faster than most fighters. Its pressurized cockpit allowed pilots to soar into the stratosphere, while its twin-jet engines provided unprecedented reliability for long missions. The plane could serve multiple roles: high-altitude reconnaissance, precision bombing, or even desperate interception missions. Allied pilots nicknamed it the Invisible Bomber, because by the time they spotted it, it was already gone. During the Battle of the Bulge, Ar 234s became the only reliable source of German intelligence, mapping troop movements from above. Though only 214 were built before the war's end, their impact was lasting. Captured Ar 234s became the foundation for America's first jet bombers, influencing aircraft like the B-45 and even later stealth designs. Pervitin Pills, the secret weapon behind the Nazi blitzkrieg, wasn't always tanks or aircraft, it was chemistry. The Pervitin pill, essentially military-grade methamphetamine, turned German soldiers into tireless fighters who could march, drive, and battle for days without rest. First introduced in 1938, it quickly became a standard-issue drug for the Wehrmacht. During the invasion of France in 1940, more than 35 million tablets were distributed, fueling the lightning-fast German advance that shocked the world. Pervitin erased fear and exhaustion. Pilots flew mission after mission without sleep. Tank crews operated for 48 hours straight. Infantry marched hundreds of miles without stopping. Commanders believed the pills gave their men superhuman endurance and aggression, but the effects went beyond stamina. They also created a sense of invincibility, making soldiers reckless and brutally efficient. Allied troops reported fighting enemies who seemed unstoppable, fighting like machines. However, the dark side soon became clear. Addiction, paranoia, violent crashes, and erratic behavior plagued troops. By 1941, military doctors were reporting serious health problems, but the drug continued to be distributed until the war's end. Even Hitler himself reportedly received daily injections of amphetamines from his personal physician. Horten Ho. 29 decades before stealth fighters became reality, Nazi engineers built the Horten Ho 229, the world's first jet-powered flying wing and the earliest stealth aircraft concept. Its design looked like something from another world. A sleek, bat-shaped wing with no vertical tail surfaces. Covered with special radar-absorbing materials, the Ho 229 was designed to slip past enemy detection and strike without warning. This revolutionary aircraft could fly at speeds of 600 miles per hour and reach altitudes of nearly 50,000 feet, carrying a 200-pound bomb load. Its futuristic flying wing shape scattered radar signals, while a charcoal-based paint helped absorb electromagnetic waves, making it almost invisible to Allied detection systems. Radar operators reported strange blips that seemed to appear and disappear like ghosts, baffling conventional defenses. The Horten brothers, Walter and Reimar, created the aircraft to meet an impossible Nazi requirement: a bomber that could cross the English Channel, deliver its payload, and return home undetected. Only 3 prototypes were ever built before the war ended, but tests proved the design worked. In fact, modern computer simulations confirm the Ho-229 would have been extremely difficult to track with the technology of the 1940s. Haunebu UFO. Among the strangest and most mysterious claims of Nazi technology is the Haunebu UFO, a supposed flying saucer developed under the secret Wunderwaffe program. Unlike tanks, rockets, or submarines, this craft seems more like science fiction than history. Descriptions tell of a disc-shaped aircraft, sleek and otherworldly, allegedly powered by experimental anti-gravity technology decades ahead of its time. Some reports claim it could reach incredible speeds, climb to extreme altitudes, and even operate in near space. Photographs and sketches of the Haunebu appeared after the war, showing round, saucer-like craft with cockpits and weapons mounts. Conspiracy theorists argue that the Nazis were experimenting with propulsion systems we still don't fully understand today. Others dismiss the Haunebu as myth or post-war propaganda designed to exaggerate Nazi technological achievements. What makes the Haunebu story compelling is that Nazi Germany truly did push physics to its limits. Projects like the V-2 rocket, stealth aircraft, and advanced jets prove they were experimenting far beyond the capabilities of most nations in the 1940s. Could they have tried disc-shaped craft? Possibly. Were they capable of building a real flying saucer? That remains unproven. Flettner Fl 282. While most nations were still struggling to get helicopters off the ground, Nazi Germany was already flying the Flettner Fl 282. Colibri, the world's first mass-produced helicopter. Unlike anything the Allies had, this small but advanced craft used an intermeshing rotor system. 2 rotors spinning in opposite directions. That eliminated the need for a tail rotor and gave it incredible stability. For the 1940s, it was a revolutionary design. The Fl 282 could reach speeds of around 90 miles per hour, climb quickly, and maneuver with agility that left test pilots amazed. It could be launched from ships as small as destroyers, making it perfect for naval reconnaissance and anti-submarine missions. German trials proved it could scout vast ocean areas, direct U-boats toward enemy convoys, and even perform search and rescue operations. Allied pilots who encountered the Fl 282 reported it was so agile in the air that fighters had trouble targeting it. Hitler's military planners envisioned thousands of these helicopters, but Allied bombing raids disrupted production. Only about 24 were ever completed before Germany's surrender. Even with limited numbers, they demonstrated what helicopters could achieve in warfare. Die Glocke. The few Nazi projects are surrounded by as much mystery and speculation as Die Glocke, or the Bell. Reportedly developed deep in the mountains of occupied Poland, this strange device was said to stand about 12 feet tall, shaped like a giant bell, with thick metal walls and strange inscriptions. Inside were 2 rotating cylinders filled with a violet, mercury-like substance known only by its code name Zerum 525. Witness accounts claim that when activated, Die Glocke emitted powerful radiation. Animals placed near it died instantly, and several scientists involved reportedly suffered fatal effects. The exact purpose of the device remains unknown, but theories range from anti-gravity propulsion and free energy experiments to even time travel research. Some believe it was part of the Nazis' push to weaponize advanced physics far beyond conventional understanding. Oversight of the project allegedly fell to SS General Hans Kammler, who vanished at the end of the war under mysterious circumstances. The testing site, a concrete structure called the Henge, still stands today in Poland, fueling endless debate. Was it simply an industrial facility, or the remains of experiments that defied known science? Wasserfall Rocket. As Allied bombers filled the skies over Germany, Nazi scientists developed a weapon meant to turn the tide. The Wasserfall Rocket. Unlike traditional flak cannons that scattered shrapnel blindly, the Wasserfall was a guided surface-to-air missile decades ahead of its time. Standing over 25 feet tall, it could climb to 50,000 feet in under 2 minutes, racing toward enemy bombers at speeds of 700 miles per hour. What made the Wasserfall terrifying was its precision. Using ground-based radar and radio signals, operators could steer it directly into bomber formations. Its warhead carried nearly 700 pounds of explosives, capable of destroying multiple aircraft with a single blast. In tests, the rocket achieved direct hits on drone targets, proving the concept worked. Allied aircrews would have had no chance against swarms of these supersonic interceptors. Hitler's command pushed for mass production, with plans to build 5,000 rockets per month. But Germany's collapsing industry and lack of resources in 1945 meant only a handful were completed. None ever saw full combat used before the war ended. Tabun nerve agent. Not all Nazi weapons were machines of steel, some were invisible killers. In 1936, chemist Gerhard Schrader, while searching for better insecticides, accidentally created Tabun, the world's first nerve agent. Unlike traditional chemical weapons, which required large amounts of gas or liquid to be deadly, Tabun was so toxic that a single drop on skin could kill within minutes. It attacked the nervous system, causing convulsions, paralysis, and death by suffocation. The Nazis quickly realized its military potential. A massive production facility at Dienfurth manufactured over 12,000 tons of the substance during the war. Artillery shells, bombs, and rockets were filled with Tabun, ready to unleash devastation on enemy troops and cities. Stockpiles grew large enough to kill millions. Yet, despite having this horrifying weapon, Hitler never authorized its battlefield use. Historians suggest he feared Allied retaliation, believing they might have similar weapons. Still, the existence of Tabun marked a terrifying turning point in warfare. Unlike mustard gas from World War I, nerve agents required only microscopic amounts to be effective, making them far deadlier. After Germany's surrender, the Soviets captured the production plant and transferred the technology to their own programs, fueling Cold War chemical weapons development. Krummlauf Rifle, one of the strangest Nazi inventions of World War II, was the Krummlauf, a curved barrel attachment for the Sturmgewehr 44 assault rifle. Its purpose was simple but shocking: to let soldiers fire around corners without exposing themselves to enemy fire. Designed with 30-45 and even 90-degree bends, it allowed troops to stay under cover while still attacking their enemies. The Krummlauf used a periscope-style sight so the shooter could aim while hidden. But engineering such a weapon was incredibly difficult. Bullets moving at high speeds had to survive sharp bends in the barrel without shattering. German engineers solved this by creating reinforced, curved tubes that used centrifugal force to guide the projectiles. Still, the stress wore barrels down quickly. Most lasted only about 300 rounds before breaking. Despite its limitations, the Krummlauf proved useful in certain situations. Tank crews could fire at enemy infantry clustered around their vehicles without exposing themselves to grenades or anti-tank weapons. Urban combat troops could attack enemies hiding in streets and alleys without stepping into the open. The psychological effect was powerful too. Soldiers never knew if bullets might suddenly come from impossible angles. Amerika Bomber, among Hitler's most ambitious dreams, was striking the United States directly, and the Amerika Bomber project was designed to make that nightmare real. The plan called for massive long-range aircraft capable of flying more than 6,000 miles, carrying enough bombs to devastate New York or Washington before returning to Europe. For the first time, the war would not just be fought across oceans. It would reach American soil. German engineers explored several radical designs. The Messerschmitt team sketched 6-engine bombers larger than anything in Allied service. The Horten brothers proposed flying wing aircraft with unmatched range and stealth potential. Most shocking of all was Eugen Seiger's Silbervogel, spaceplane concept, a rocket-powered craft that would skip across the upper atmosphere like a stone across water, bomb America, and then continue on to land in Japan. On paper, these aircraft pushed engineering to the edge of science fiction. Wind tunnel tests showed the designs could work, and prototype engines were already achieving record thrust levels. But the reality of war prevented the project from moving forward. Germany simply lacked the resources, fuel, and time to build such colossal machines, while its cities burned and its armies retreated. ZG-1229 Vampir. While Allied soldiers stumbled through the night with flashlights and flares, German troops were testing a technology that seemed almost supernatural: the ZG-1229 Vampir night vision system. Developed in 1944, it gave soldiers the ability to see and shoot in total darkness, decades before night vision became common. For the first time, war was no longer bound by daylight. The Vampir worked by using an infrared searchlight mounted on a rifle. The light was invisible to the naked eye, but could be detected through a special image converter scope, creating ghostly green images of the battlefield. With this system, snipers could engage targets 100 meters away in complete darkness, and machine gun teams could cut down enemies who never even knew they were being watched. Each unit consisted of a rifle-mounted scope, a large infrared lamp, and a backpack battery pack that weighed nearly 30 pounds. Though bulky, it turned ordinary soldiers into predators of the night. Allied troops reported being fired upon by unseen enemies, feeding rumors that Germans had devil eyes that could see in the dark. Over 300 Vampir systems were produced, and while they appeared too late to change the war's outcome, their influence was enormous. After 1945, both the Americans and Soviets studied captured Vampir equipment,